Welcome to the lunch table. My name's Evan, and today I'm joined with just Nick today. The rest of the guys couldn't make it, but got a packed episode for you guys. A lot of games to talk about, a lot of good games to talk about. Um, Probably one of the better weeks of the NFL so far.
Oh yeah,
I enjoyed the games. A
it
lot of
was
close
very
games.
enjoyable to watch.
So we're going to be talking about those and some headlines. But before we dive in, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy and to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at lunchtable.takes. Without further ado, we'll get into the most breaking news of the day. The Indianapolis Colts bench their starting quarterback, Anthony Richardson, after he struggled against the Houston Texans in a loss. Nick, as a Colts fan, what are your thoughts?
Um, I'm just checked out at this point, to be totally honest with you. I'm gonna get to. I'm gonna start with the side of why you bench him, because I think there's gonna be a lot of comments saying that I'm wrong if I don't address this now. He has not played well. There's no debate about it. He has regressed mightily from his limited sample size last year. He has had. I still think his best game of the year was Week 1 against Houston, and he's not gotten back to that level for a full game since then. Um, Obviously, 10 of 32 is inexcusable. I do think that box score does not show how well he did play, because I don't think the game was just a full game of him being awful. He made really dumb decisions. That pick at the end of the first half, inexcusable. No matter what the play call is, you cannot throw that in that situation. And him subbing himself out on the play in the third quarter, I think it was, on a 3rd and goal, is also inexcusable, even for a 22-year-old quarterback. You are supposed to be the leader of the team. You cannot do that under any circumstance. I get you're throwing off 300-pound defensive tackles and your offensive line has played terrible and you're running for your life all game, but you are the leader of that team. You can't sub yourself out of the game. If they had come out and say we are benching him because of that decision, I would be like, okay, I can get behind that. Teaching moment, coachable moment, yada, 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 whatever. But I feel like if you were going to do that, you should bench him for maybe the first quarter of the game against the Vikings on Sunday to send a message. And then throw him back in the game if Flacco's not doing too great. They came out and said they said they're benching him because of performance on the field. Again, his performance has not been great, but you knew what you were getting when you drafted him 4th overall. You knew he was incredibly raw and he was going to be a developmental project. You knew this year was going to be a developmental season to see how he progresses. And watching the film, I see progression. Like I see him getting better at reading defenses, and I see him getting better at throwing in between tight windows. The accuracy just hasn't improved, but I'm seeing him get better week to week, and they've decided that they want to sacrifice their long-term future for marginal short-term gain. This is not a 49ers Brock Purdy situation where he's coming in and he's winning games. Joe Flacco literally lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't care what the stat line was. He did not perform well until the 4th quarter. He almost lost to the Tennessee Titans on the road, who are just as bad of a team as the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Indianapolis Colts are not winning a Super Bowl this year, period. They're not. They'd be lucky to make the playoffs right now. I'm shocked they're 4-4. But you are giving up on your potential future. If Anthony Richardson would continue to play and he continues to suck, the Colts lose more games and get a draft pick to improve their team, and then you make a decision on him in the offseason. If he improves and they make the postseason, then you have your quarterback for the future. And you don't have to worry about that. It makes absolutely zero sense to me, and it signifies to me that the Colts are not a serious organization. They are content with being mediocre for the foreseeable future. They would rather not gamble on a potential 4 or 5 win season with a quarterback that is not an NFL ready quarterback, to put it bluntly, and trade that for a 9 to 10 win season, and maybe if they're lucky, a wild card blowout at the hands of the Bills or the Ravens. And it doesn't make any sense to me. It makes zero sense to me at all. So I've completely checked out of this team for this year. I've not been this frustrated with the Colts in quite a long time. It makes no sense to me. It makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think if you actually watched that game against the Texans, like, yes, he had some plays, like you mentioned, that weren't great, but his receivers dropped like 5 or 6 passes. There were 2 touchdowns that he had that
Yeah,
were
Goodson dropped a
one,
touchdown, and then
and
A.D.
then
Mitchell dropped one in the
didn't get
first
it.
quarter.
Yeah. So like if the receivers come down with that, we're not having this conversation. Anthony Richardson throws for a couple 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and they
The
beat the
Colts win that
Texans.
game. They win that
Yeah.
game.
So I don't think that game was completely on him. I think his receivers dropped a lot of balls. There was like 5 or 6 of them, I think, that were really good throws by him, and the receivers just didn't come up with them. But accuracy has been an issue. He is completing only 44% of his passes. But like you said, that's kind of what you got yourself into when you drafted him. Um, he only played 24 games in college. Excuse me. Started 12 of those in his junior year, and you saw in that game, and you saw in that season, like this guy is an athletic freak. He's has a great arm, but the decision making is not there yet. There's still some intangible things that he needs to work on. So going into that draft, you knew, okay, this guy's going to be. He has a very high ceiling, one of the highest ceilings in that draft. But you knew that he was going to be a developmental piece, and you kind of just threw him in there off rip, and he did well. The first 4 weeks of his rookie season, he did really well until he got injured. Um, but since he's came back, he's been off and on. Like you said, week 1 he played really well, but then he has games where he, like this game, where statistically he doesn't play really well. But I feel like with the Colts, you knew what you were getting into. You knew this guy was going to be a developmental quarterback, and so I believe you should have had a plan in place to either have him not start off rip, or for him to, like, you know how like Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love and these guys have sat a year and then played, because he's still very raw. He hasn't played a whole lot of football at the highest
He's
level.
played like
And
26 starts since he got into college.
yeah, so he needs to just play. And like you said, benching him out of frustration to play, I get it. But what does this team really have to gain from that? You're derailing the confidence of your top 5 pick from a year ago, and you might win a couple more games, but what's that really going to do for you in the long run of things? Because, like you said, Joe Flacco isn't like going to be like the savior like he was in Cleveland, I don't think. Um, and so now you have a quarterback that you entrusted basically your franchise in, and he hasn't really lived up to it yet. But I mean, he hasn't even played a full season of NFL football yet. So for them to be like, okay, we're done with him, like for the right now, like we're going to try something else. It just doesn't send the right message that you need. And like you said, this isn't a team like like you said, it's just they're okay with being mediocre. Like you said, if they win 5, 6 games this year, get a top pick, and then you can draft somebody to help out with Anthony Richardson's development. But I just think this just shows that um, they're unwilling to put in the time to see the what could be with him, and yeah, I think there's some question marks that raised with that front office, especially because I mean, he hasn't played a full year of football. And I'm not saying he's played well. He hasn't. But, I mean, we saw Bryce Young last year. He was terrible, but he played out the whole season. You got to give these young guys, if you're going to start them off rip, you have to give them a chance to just get through the ups and downs of being basically a young rookie quarterback. You know, it's not going to be pretty unless you're like CJ Stroud his rookie year.
CJ
But
Stroud and Jaden Daniels, and even Caleb Williams to a certain extent, have completely warped people's
Yeah.
perceptions on what a rookie quarterback should be, and it makes it's
Yeah. And if you look like back in history, like there's so many great quarterbacks who at the beginning couple years of their career weren't very good. Like we talk about Josh Allen,
the
which is
Colts' best
which is the
quarterback ever, Peyton Manning, was terrible his rookie year. He had one of the worst rookie years we've ever seen. And then they stuck with him, and look what he came. Look what he became.
yeah,
Look
one
what
Super
happens when
Bowl
you
Hall
stick
of
with a
Famer.
guy that you fully believe in.
Yeah. So I don't understand it really at all. I mean, like you said, if they would have benched him for like, hey, you sub yourself out of the game, that's unacceptable. Like you're a competitor, you have to compete even if you're tired. You're in the NFL, you're one of the best athletes in the world. Then I would get that. But to bench him based off performance, when I genuinely don't think this was the worst game that he's played this year. I think this game wasn't fully on him. I think his receivers
No, it
dropped
was
better
this game
balls.
was absolutely not fully on him.
There were multiple games like before this that you could have benched him for because he just wasn't playing great. But yeah, I feel like this doesn't send out the best message for the Colts
Yeah,
organization.
like the game against Chicago where he was genuinely the worst player on the field, and if they would have benched him after that, I'd have been like, okay, I disagree, but I kind of get it. It makes no sense. And also, if he does not become the starter after this year, Chris Ballard has to be fired. Shane Steichen also probably has to be fired. And if they trade him for a day 3 pick after this year, which I know they're saying, oh, we're just benching him for right now. I don't believe that for a second because I remember when they told me Andrew Luck was week to week in 2017, and then he missed the entire season with a shoulder injury. So I don't believe anything that comes out of that ownership's mouth for a second. And also, I saw a stat that was like, of the 74 first round quarterbacks to be benched in their first 2 years, only 2 of them were reinserted into the starting lineup for that team. And that was Alex Smith for the 49ers and Rex Grossman for the Bears. 2 out of the 74 that have been drafted since 2000, first round quarterbacks. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. I genuinely don't believe it for a second. And even the sitting behind thing with Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, who probably isn't a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he was an above average quarterback for the better part of a decade. Aaron Rodgers, who Jordan Love sat behind, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, no disrespect to Joe Flacco, he's won a Super Bowl and he played great last year, but he's not as good as Alex Smith, and he's not even in the same ballpark as Aaron Rodgers. So it doesn't. It makes no sense to me. I'm so unbelievably frustrated and angry with the incompetence of this ownership.
Yeah, no, I would be too. I think like even when he got drafted, you could have signed a veteran quarterback and just been like, all right, I know this guy's what'd you guys take him
4th overall pick.
Yeah, I know he's the 4th overall pick, but we know he's very raw. He's just going to learn the NFL, how the NFL game plays. Then we'll insert him the following season and hope for the best. Um, or if you would have done like how kind of like they would have played the season in the back 4 or 5 weeks of the season, if the season was already a lost cause, we throw him in there and see what he can do. Um, Not that I don't think that necessarily like stunted his development because he was playing really well before he got hurt. I just think when you draft a player who's only played 26 games in college and only started 12 or 13 of them, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, and you have to kind of have a longer leash than some quarterbacks.
Every team wants a developmental quarterback, but they don't want to actually put in the development. Like, what do you think would have happened if the Bills benched Josh Allen in his
Yeah.
rookie year? I can guarantee you he would not be the Josh Allen he is today. Like, you've got to have patience with some of these guys, but a lot of organizations don't want to.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw something. It was like this laundry list of quarterbacks that um, were drafted like high and haven't panned out, and I think they got benched early on in their careers. And it was I forget exactly who it was, but all right, let's move into this slate of games for the week. Thursday night, we had a showdown between the Rams and the 49ers. Sorry,
The Vikings,
Vikings.
yeah.
Excuse me. And the Rams pulled out the win, 30-20. Puka Nakua was back. Cooper Kupp was back, and they pulled off an upset win against the then 5-1, now 5-2 Vikings.
Yeah, we talked about this in the game preview. I actually said that I could see the Rams winning this game, and they did. I didn't pick the Rams to win this game, but I'm not shocked that they won because I feel like if there was one coach that could figure out Brian Flores' defense so far this year, it would be Sean McVay. I did not expect Puka Nakua to have the type of game that he did coming back from his injury, but 7 for 106, you'll take that. Matthew Stafford balled out in this game. Matthew Stafford was fantastic. 279, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, 25 to 34. Um, he was great all game long. Minnesota started the game off really hot, but then they kind of fell off a cliff. They didn't score another touchdown after the first quarter. Also, the no call face mask at
That
the
was
end of the
horrible.
game, one of the worst calls I've ever seen at any level of any sport. Yeah, was it Byron Young who made that
Yeah.
play? Soon he was like, he put his hands on his head like I committed a face mask penalty, and they just didn't even, no one, nothing, no flag.
Well, the ref had a solid angle on that too.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's head literally got twisted like 120 degrees, but you know, it's inexcusable. I don't even know how you can be a ref at the NFL level and not call something that blatant. But the Rams, I'm not going to say that the Vikings lost the game on that because they were already down 8 points. Best they could have done is tie it and send it to overtime. But you know, sometimes stuff just doesn't go your way in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, we're finally seeing this Rams team healthy. I mean, they got decimated pretty early on with injuries. And before the season, a lot of people were pretty high on this Rams team because, I mean, you have Stafford, Kupp, Kyron Williams, Puka. We knew the defense would struggle a little bit, but that offense you thought would be pretty high powered. And then immediately you lose Kupp and Puka, and now you're kind of in scramble mode. But now that they're all healthy, I mean, this is a big win for the Rams. I mean, the Vikings were one of the best teams, still are one of the best teams in the league. And on national stage Thursday night, Stafford comes in, throws 4 touchdowns, 280 yards. Puka has a great game. He has 106 yards in his first game back. Um, yeah, I mean, like you said, if anybody can kind of shred that Brian Flores defense, it was going to be Sean McVay. And now that he's got a healthy team, at least for the most part, they got the job done. So I don't think you can really write the Rams off just yet. I mean, yeah, they're 3-4, but that division's pretty open. The 49ers are kind of going away. They played really well this past week. We'll talk about that later. But they're kind of starting to pull away a little bit. But Seahawks just had a big loss. The Cardinals just barely escaped the Dolphins, and then you can have the Rams back into that mix. So I think the Rams, this is a big win for them, a big confidence boost, and hopefully they can stay healthy.
I would be shocked if the Rams don't get themselves back in the playoff mix, to be truthfully honest with you, because their offense, fully healthy, can hang with anyone, with any defense or any other offense they get put up against. This game proved it. They've got a phenomenal wide receiver duo. They've got a top 10 quarterback in Matt Stafford, and Kyron Williams has not fallen off like Weaver thought he might. But I mean, still, I would not be shocked at all if the Rams are looking at 10 wins going into the final week of the year and trying to secure a wild card spot.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, moving on to staying in the division. We got the Bills throttled the Seahawks 31-10. They kind of just, it looked like this wasn't much of a game. I mean, the Bills kind of just laid it on them.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this game, to be truthfully honest with you. The Bills are just they're a machine again, at least in the regular season. We'll see if they play the Chiefs in the postseason again. But I mean, they like, I'm shocked. I think Sean McDermott deserves a lot of credit because going into this year, I've said it ad nauseum, but I did not know how this Bills defense in particular was going to look, and they have been one of the more elite units in the NFL once again. They shut down the Seahawks for essentially all this game. They scored a touchdown at the end to make it look slightly more respectable. But, I mean, James Cook had another fantastic game, 111, 2 touchdowns on 6.5 yards a carry. Keon Coleman had another pretty solid game, another game with a touchdown. Khalil
That was
Shakir,
a really nice touchdown.
yeah, it was
That
a
tough
great catch. And this is a game that Amari Cooper had one catch for 3 yards. So I know that's not gonna. I know that's not gonna happen. I pray that for my fantasy team, I pray that that doesn't happen. But realistically speaking, also I know that's not going to happen for the rest of the year. He's going to get himself more involved as he learns this offense more. But the Seahawks they're a solid team, and Buffalo to go in there and just dismantle them for 60 minutes was incredibly impressive for me.
Yeah, I mean, they held Kenneth Walker, who's been playing really well this year, to 12 yards on 9 carries. He only averaged 1.3 yards per carry. So, like you said, they completely just shut down this offense, and there's really nothing that um, the Seahawks could do. I mean, they were without DK, but even still, they have enough talent on
Yeah,
that team.
DK would not have changed this game that much.
No.
Um,
This was an interesting game, though. The Browns beat the Baltimore Ravens at home 29-24. Jameis Winston, first game starting for the Browns, throws 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards.
Yeah.
It's like we said that Deshaun Watson was the problem the whole time.
Yeah, I think anyone with 2 functioning brain cells that watches the NFL could have deduced that, but I did not expect Jameis Winston to come out and throw for 334 and 3 touchdowns against the Ravens defense. I'm not going to overreact on this game from the Ravens' perspective. They've won 5 in a row. The Browns had lost 5 in a row. Just changed a quarterback who I think the entire locker room would be rallying behind. More, at least more so than Deshaun Watson. And it was a road divisional game. Like, these kind of losses just happen. But I was incredibly impressed with Jameis Winston and Cedric Tillman, 2 touchdowns on the day. David Njoku, the whole Browns receiving core had a pretty balanced game. Cedric Tillman had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Elijah Moore had 8 for 85. Jerry Jeudy had 5 for close to 80. David Njoku got in the end zone. It was a very balanced offensive game, and Lamar Jackson didn't even play that bad. Rashad Bateman has lost his job because the Ravens traded for Deontay Johnson today after he dropped a perfect ball from Lamar Jackson that probably would have sealed the win. Kyle Hamilton also dropped a game-winning interception on the Browns' final offensive drive. That was pretty bad. Yeah, but that those kind of plays just happen. This is a good game. It was a very good and very exciting game. I don't really know if this changes the trajectory of either team's season, but it was enjoyable, and I did not expect that result at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the story of the AFC North. Any team can beat either team in any game. I mean, you see this every year. But yeah, I mean, it's good for Jameis Winston. You know, everyone loves Jameis Winston. He's a great guy. He's really funny. And, I mean, for him to come out 3 touchdowns, 334 yards, I can't remember the last time he played that well.
I can't either, because everyone knows he's a guy that pushes the ball down the field, but a lot of the time when he pushes the ball down the field, he turns the ball over a fair bit, and he didn't do that in this game at all. So,
and yeah, like you said, shout out Cedric Tillman, his breakout game, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. They need him to step up because without Amari Cooper, their wide receiver core isn't very good. But I mean, same script really for the Ravens. Lamar played well. Derrick Henry played well. Zay Flowers had 115 yards. And now they add Deontay Johnson, who is one of the best man-to-man beaters, yeah, which helps a lot. So he kind of gives them another dimension there. They gave up literally like a 5th, 6th round pick for him, so they didn't give him anything to get him. But one thing that I'm concerned about is the Ravens' pass defense. They're currently last and the passing yards allowed per game, averaging 291 passing yards per game. Um, and I mean, we've seen from weeks past, you let up 31 points against the Bucks. Baker played well, and then you went in a shootout against the Bengals. You allow 38 points. So they're letting quarterbacks kind of throw all over them. I mean, 200, almost 300 yards per game on average um, isn't great. They're ranked last in, I think, passing defense as a whole. Um, but luckily for them, they have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on offense. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see down the line if that comes if that comes back to bite them. Because I mean, got teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and like guys like that who like to push the ball down the field. That could hurt them come playoff time. But offensively, Lamar Jackson is still phenomenal. He's going to do really well. And then obviously adding Derrick Henry, now you have Deontay Johnson and Zay Flowers. They're definitely one of the best teams in the AFC. But the passing defense is a little concerning.
Yeah, the passing defense is definitely a concern for Baltimore. I still they've got too much talent in the secondary. I still think they'll figure it out eventually, but we're now halfway through the season, so it's becoming a bit of a trend that teams can throw on this team. But happens.
Yeah. All right, let's stay in division. Let's talk about the Eagles versus the Bengals. The Eagles won 37-17. It was a 10-10 ball game going into the halftime, and then the Eagles ran away with it in the second half. As a non-Bengals fan, Nick, what were your thoughts on this game?
I don't know if you're gonna like hearing this, but I think the Bengals are cooked for this season. If they had lost 37-30 or 37-27 against a good Eagles team, I would be like, okay, the Bengals could still string together a run here and maybe make a wild card, or we'll see what happens. But the second half, where they just got dominated, man. They just looked like a completely different team. The no run game for Cincinnati at all. Chase Brown averaged less than 3 yards a carry. Zach Moss averaged 2 yards a carry. They just that's probably why the game got away from him, because it was all relying on Joe Burrow's arm. And Joe Burrow, while I don't think he played bad, did not have a Joe Burrow-esque game in this one. It's just inconsistent, and their defense reverted back to week 1 through 5 form. And so, like that's what you're gonna get. Philadelphia looked fantastic in this game. Shout out Jalen Hurts for poaching 3 touchdowns off of Saquon Barkley. Really funny to see. Accounted for 4 total. Yeah, he had as many touchdowns accounted for as incompletions on the day. Devontae Smith is one of the more sure-handed receivers in the entire NFL.
That throw that Jalen Hurts threw on that touchdown, that was a great.
That was a dot. That was a dot. That was a fantastic throw. And the Eagles, as a team, I know early on in the year when they were having some struggles, I was like, they're the most error-prone good team I've ever seen. It's back-to-back weeks now that they've strung together 28-3. I mean, it was against the Giants, so who really cares? But 37-17 against the Bengals. They've got the Jags this week that they should come out on top of there. And then they've got the annual game at Jerry's World. But, they're 5-2. And they're not leading the division because of what's going on in Washington, but they're looking like, at minimum, a likely playoff team, which is what I know we thought they would be going into this year. I think the Eagles are ascending to being a certified great team in the league. Just have some early season hiccups.
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely agree with you. The Bengals are cooked. They're done. I'll probably rant about it more on Around the Jungle, which you should check out. But yeah, in a game where you cannot run the ball virtually at all, you're not going to win. And like you said, this defense reverted back to what they have been in weeks 1 through 5. We got gashed by Saquon Barkley, which I knew we would.
I did call that in the
Yeah, no,
game predictions.
I knew that was going to happen. But I mean, it's just another game where you have questionable coaching decisions. You go for it on 4th and 1. You throw
They threw like a bubble screen that was
behind,
4 yards
behind
short
the
of the sticks.
Yeah. So and then right after that, you get a tipped ball interception, and then you fumble, and then the game's out of your hands at that point. So that was a huge momentum shift. I thought the first half they played fairly well. They came out and scored off the bat right after the Eagles did. And they scored, I think they scored right after halftime. And then, like I said, they had those three plays where they got stuffed, interception, fumble, and then the game got away from them. And then you kind of have to revert back to, you just have to throw the ball to get back into the game. And it wasn't Joe's best game. The interception wasn't completely his fault. That was just a good play by the DB, but an interception, a costly interception nonetheless. Mike Gesicki played really well. He had 7 catches for 73 yards. He did have the fumble, but overall he played well. Jermaine Burton, he had a big play. But, I think there's a lot of questions for this Bengals team. Now they're 3-5 going into Las Vegas, which should be a win. But I don't think I think Joe said for them to comfortably be in playoff contention, they have to win 7 out of their next 9.
I don't even know. I don't even know if that's comfortable though. That puts you at 10 wins, and 10 wins usually gets you in, but there are odd cases where a 10-win team misses the playoffs. So
but
that's not even a guarantee.
But I don't think that that's happening. I think likelihood is it's going to kind of be a season like it was last year, where it's kind of a wash. But which is unfortunate because Joe Burrow has the highest QBR in the NFL right now. Jamar Chase is statistically the best receiver this year, and you're kind of just throwing it all away, which I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth on the Around the Jungle channel. But on the Eagles side of things, I mean, they played really well. I think obviously Saquon Barkley played good. Jalen Hurts, I think this was one of his better games. Like I said earlier, that throw to Devonta Smith was a perfect throw. And then he did have 3 rushing touchdowns on the goal line, which, whatever. That's just how the Eagles are.
That's just the Eagles. That's just the Eagles for you.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, Eagles are 5-2 now. They got the Jags, Cowboys, Commanders. So after the Jags, they got a little bit difficult of a couple of stretch of games, which those 2 games could be must-wins for them if they want to try to win the division.
That game against the Commanders on Thursday night, whatever, week 11, I think it is going. That's going to be a phenomenal game. But
I think this is one of the more complete games that they've played. These last 2 weeks, they played really well. But this game, I feel like, was one of the more complete games they played all year. And they're winners of 3 straight. So, and if you look at their 2 losses, 1 point to the Falcons, who are a very good team, and then
the Eagles also probably could have won that game against Atlanta, and against Tampa Bay they were injured to heck. They had no one.
Tampa Bay is a great team as well. So yeah, I still think they're still going to be playoff contenders, I believe, if they don't collapse in the second half of the season like they did last year. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this one, but the Cardinals won 28-27 off a game-winning field goal in Tua's return, and immediately this offense is just a million times better with Tua in the lineup. Devon Achane runs for 97 yards. He gets 50 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets. Tyreek Hill has 72 yards. Raheem Mostert rushed for 2 yards on the goal line. The offense just looked like a comparable offense with Tua.
Yeah, but it didn't matter. That's the thing. It didn't matter. I think the Dolphins are also cooked. I think they've dug themselves too deep of a hole, to be truthfully honest with you. 2-5, probably 2-6 after this week. That they'd have to win what, 7 of their last 8, and they've got games at Green Bay versus the Niners, at the Texans. Like, they still play the Jets, which the Jets are a complete and utter disaster right now. But, I mean, they've still got players. Like, I think the Dolphins have dug themselves too deep of a hole this year, to be truthfully honest with you. They had to win this game. And I like the offense looked leaps and bounds better with Tua in there, but it didn't look like one of the best offenses in the league, in my opinion. I thought they should have put up close to 40 against this Cardinals defense if their offense was as good as it was last year. And the Cardinals are quietly 4-4. I mean, they've won their games. I mean, they beat the Rams by 31, but then they beat the Niners by 1, the Chargers by 2, and now the Dolphins by 1. But, I mean, who knows what they can string together if the connection between Marv and Kyler Murray continues to improve like it did in this game. He had over 100 yards and a touchdown. But Kyler Murray played really well. James Conner didn't have the greatest game, but he got in the end zone. Trey McBride is a demon. Marv had a really good game. And yeah, the Cardinals just keep finding ways to win these close games, and that's incredibly valuable. That's an incredibly valuable trait to have for a team on any given year. But I think this game says more about Miami than it does about the Cardinals. Even with as open as the AFC is, I don't see Miami really getting themselves back into it unless Tua turns into like a god, which I'm not saying that's impossible, but I don't see it happening this year if he even stays healthy for the full year.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. I said right when Tua got hurt, I said if they don't bring in a legitimate backup quarterback, when he comes back, the season's already going to be a wash. And like you said, going into they're 2-5 now, and I mean, I don't really think there's much you can't really salvage this at this point. And you went through their schedule; they got some tough games, but it is good to see that the offense looked like a capable offense. But still weren't able to pull it out at the end of the day. And on the Cardinals side, I mean, Kyler Murray, he's been stringing together some good games recently. Last 3 or 4 games, he's played really well. And Marv, kind of, this was his best game so far. 111 yards on 6 catches with a touchdown. Also, shout out Ohio State receivers this week. They went nuts. Terry McLaurin had 112 yards. JSN had 69. Olave had 107. Noah Brown had 73 yards in the game-winning touchdown, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
And then Garrett Wilson had 113 as well. So shout out wide receiver U. They're balling this. They balled out this week. Yeah, I mean, this is what we expected. Really, the offense of the Cardinals to look like. Trey McBride, big game. Marvin Harrison, big game. James Conner, not the most efficient game, but got a touchdown nonetheless. Kyler Murray played clean football. So yeah, like you said, this Cardinals team's quietly 4-4. They played the Bears. They have a little bit of a tough schedule. I mean, you got the Bears, Jets, Seahawks, Vikings, Seahawks. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can pull out some of those games. But 2-game win streak, and a good win for them nonetheless. Nick foreshadowed this game a couple minutes ago, but the Patriots defeated the Jets 25-22. And the Jets are in utter shambles.
The Jets are a complete disaster. There's no other way to put it. They're just a disaster. I picked the Patriots to win this game thinking that Drake May, even though they had lost both games, Drake May had back-to-back at least decent performances, and the Jets defense is not what we thought it was. And then Drake May got hurt, and I was like, oh, well, there goes that prediction. And they still found a way to lose. Like, I don't know how they keep doing. No one on the Patriots even played well. Like, Ramondre Stevenson got in the end zone twice, but he averaged 2.4 yards a carry. Not a single person on the Patriots receiving core had 50-plus yards receiving. And you look at the Jets, Aaron Rodgers had 233, 2 touchdowns. Breece Hall had 5 yards to carry. Braylon Allen got in the end zone. You alluded to Garrett Wilson having over 100 yards receiving. and they still found a way to lose. And when you find ways to lose against teams like the Patriots, who, let's be real, are probably not winning more than 4 games this season, it's like I don't even, they're just not a good team. They're just not a good team. I don't even know what you do. There's no more moves to make for the Jets. And they like they had, I don't even know what the problem is. They've got pieces. Like, they've got good young talent littered throughout the entire roster. It's got to be Aaron Rodgers. But even with that, like, I want to say he's having a season where it's like you look at the numbers and you look at the stats and it's like, okay, he's got about 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks on an 85 QBR. That's like, it's not elite, but it's not like,
should win you more than 2 games.
Yeah, you should be better than 2-6 halfway through the season. I feel bad for Jets fans, dude. Like, I can't remember the last time a team had this high of expectations and they've fallen this flat on their face. Like, it probably the Eagles' dream team in like 2010 after they got Michael Vick and a bunch of like Pro Bowl, All Pro caliber players at the time, and then they went 8-8. But even so, they were at least a decent team. Like, it's, I don't even know. I don't know what to say for the Jets. I don't even have much to say. It's just a disaster.
Yeah, it's a complete disaster. And like you said, there's no more moves to be made. You already moved on from your coach. You brought in a great receiver in Devontae Adams that has chemistry and rapport with Aaron Rodgers. And you drop a game to the Patriots, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And like you said, there's nothing like glaring that's wrong with this team. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played fine. Breece Hall played well. Garrett Wilson played well. Devontae Adams had 54 yards. And the Patriots didn't do anything really insane to win this game. It just, like you said, they just found a way to lose. And you look at this team on paper, you're like, okay, you have Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Devontae Adams on offense with a solid offensive line. Okay, it should be fair. And then on defense, you got Will McDonald, who's averaging top 5 in sacks.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's one of the sack leaders this year.
And then you got Sauce Gardner.
He has not been playing well. Williams. Sauce Gardner has been objectively bad this year.
Yeah. But like going into the season, Quinnen Williams, guys like that. But they're struggling. You'd think that with their talent, their record would be flipped. They'd be sitting at 5-2 instead of 2-5 or 2-6, excuse me. But they're on track to have a top 10 pick, and I don't really know what you do from here because Aaron Rodgers isn't getting any older. He's probably going to retire in the next couple of years, and then you're kind of back to square one. And you've seen, okay, we brought in a former MVP quarterback that has won big games in his career, and we surrounded him with all of these weapons and stuff, and we're still not winning games. So I feel like as a Jets fan, you're like, well, how much better can we really make this team? Like how much better can we actually get? And so, like you said, I feel bad for Jets fans who kind of just the one year that you actually have like legitimate expectations for your team, and they're just completely not even close to fulfilling those. So, and like you said, I can't pinpoint what's necessarily wrong with this team. I know the defense hasn't played as good as we probably expected, but you still shouldn't lose a game to the Patriots when they put up 22 points or 25 points, excuse me. And
Drake May doesn't even play for most of it, too.
He only threw the ball 6 times because he got hurt really early in the game. So yeah,
there's not one specific issue with the Jets, but it's like everything is just off.
Yeah, it's a disaster. All right, let's talk about this Falcons-Bucks game. The Falcons won 31-26, and Kirk Cousins threw for 4 touchdowns and 276 yards, and Kyle Pitts finally looking like the tight end he was drafted to be, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns on National Tight Ends Day.
Yeah, one of the touchdowns should not have counted.
No.
I cannot believe they don't have a pylon cam for that instance. I feel like that should be a requirement for every NFL stadium. But I mean, Atlanta's they're just a good team. They're hitting their stride. Kirk Cousins is balling. Another game with 4+ touchdowns. Like we said, Kyle Pitts is turning into what we thought Kyle Pitts could be. Darnell Mooney had another great game, 86 yards and a touchdown. Bijan got in the end zone. He had a fantastic game in this one, and I think even though Baker Mayfield had 330, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and Cade Otton had a whale of a game. When you can't really run the football that well in Tampa Bay's case, and you lose Mike Evans for a month and Chris Godwin for the rest of the year, like you're just gonna fall off. It's unfortunate because I think Tampa Bay, when they are fully healthy, they're a good team. They're a really good team. They're a playoff caliber team. But with the losses of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and as with the NFC being a lot better than I think we all anticipated going into the year, it's going to be hard for Tampa to find their way into the postseason, especially when they've got the Chiefs and the Niners back to back. They play the Chiefs on Monday and then the Niners the week after. After that, their schedule gets significantly easier, so we'll see. But they'd have to win 6 of their last 7 to get to 10 wins, assuming they lose to the Chiefs and the Niners. So we'll see what happens. But I think the losses of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans for a period of time are going to be very significant if the Buccaneers do not figure out a way to run the ball more effectively.
Yeah, I think the Falcons I think they demonstrated that they're a legitimate playoff team. I mean, Kirk Cousins has been playing really well recently. I guess not last week, but 4 touchdowns this game, 276 through the air. He's 3rd in yards, 5th in touchdowns, 10th in QBR, so he's having a great season so far. And really the only other team in this division that would give them problems was going to be the Bucks, and with the Bucks' injuries, I think the Falcons might run away with this division.
The Falcons have also swept them now, so they have the tiebreaker on them for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and so I think the Falcons are going to be a team that will be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. I think they could be a tough matchup for some teams.
They should win the division for sure.
Yeah, because the Saints aren't very good. The Panthers are the worst team in the NFL, and already beating the Bucks 2 games outright, unless they just completely fall off, I feel like they should be fine.
And with the Falcons, the Falcons finished last in their division last year, so their remaining schedule is Cowboys, Saints, Broncos, Chargers, Vikings, Raiders, Giants, Commanders, and Panthers. So, I mean, the Commanders game will be tough. The Vikings game will probably be tough, and the Broncos game, because the Broncos are they're actually a decent team this year. Those 3 games might be a bit challenging, but I mean, Cowboys, I think they should win. Saints, they should win. Chargers, Raiders, Giants, Panthers, they should win. So that's 5 wins. So at worst, I'm looking at 10-7. They could win 11 or 12 games and be a real force in the postseason for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nice to see that, most of the season Drake London has been that wide receiver 1. He didn't play his best game this game, only 34 yards and 4 catches. But Darnell Mooney, like you said, stepped up. Kyle Pitts stepped up in a big way. Bijan Robinson chipped in with a receiving touchdown, 63 rushing yards. I think this Falcons team's really good. And on the Bucs side of things, without Chris Godwin, without Mike Evans, it's going to be tough for them to move the ball. Cade Otton played really well, but I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. And yeah, like you said, if you can't get the running game down pat, it's going to be a struggle offensively for you. And so the Bucs, it's looking a little dim.
They've got to win one of their next 2 games. They've got to beat either the Chiefs or the Niners. in order to get themselves in a position where they could go on a run late in the year and maybe make the playoffs. But easier said than done.
Yeah. All right, couple. Do we want to talk about the Packers Jags or
no? Is Jordan Love good? I know he went out with a groin injury and Malik Willis came in, but
I think it's only day to day.
Yeah,
I don't think it was anything too serious.
I feel like if it was, I would have heard about it. I'm gonna look it up.
We already talked about the Colts game. Nobody cares about this game.
Stephon Diggs is out for the year.
Yeah, he tore his ACL.
He tore his ACL, so I think that's going to be huge for Houston.
Yeah, so they're going to be without Nico for, I think, another at least 3 or 4 weeks. I think 2 or 3 weeks. And then the Texans' offensive line has been really bad.
Yeah, their offensive line has not been good. Which, I will say this about the Colts, because I didn't really talk about it when we talked about the Anthony Richardson situation. The offensive line for Indianapolis played their worst game of the year against Houston on Sunday. That is the reason they lost that game. Anthony Richardson did not play well, but the Colts lost that game because their offensive line was abysmal. That's all I have to say. That's the only thing I'm going to add with that game. Also, the AFC South is Houston's. Like they're 2 games up on the Colts, effectively 3 games because they've swept them now. They're going to win the AFC South. That division is gone. But
yeah. I don't really want to talk about this game, but I do want to talk about the team. The Denver Broncos, they're 5-3. They're won back-to-back games, and Bo Nix has actually been playing really well.
It was against the Panthers, so I'm not going to take too much on it, but
he's been decent so far.
Yeah, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 picks, 81 QBR, 63% completion. It's not great, but it's not bad at all. He's definitely playing a lot better than I thought he would.
And they've won 4 of their last 5. So,
I mean, what? Jets, Raiders, Saints, Panthers.
It's not against good teams.
You could make an argument that those are probably 4 of the 6 worst teams in the entire NFL, but
their defense has been good.
Their defense has been good.
That team.
Yes,
their defense is really good.
But yeah, they're 5. They're already 3 games ahead of what I had them in the preseason. So I'm sure Denver fans everywhere are licking their chops. But they've got the Ravens this week and the Chiefs the week after. They've got Ravens, Chiefs, Falcons. So we'll learn very quick whether this team is actually a playoff team or not.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the game of the week. The Commanders beat the Bears, 18-15 off probably the play of the year.
Probably. It's going to be the play of the year.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels, Hail Mary, tipped. Noah Brown catches it. Ball game. What were your thoughts?
I mean, this was the first time in a long time that I have genuinely leapt out of my seat watching a play in the NFL happen. I watched it live. I'm sure most of us did, but I watched it live with my family. That's one of the craziest things I've ever seen on an NFL field. And I've seen a lot of people, a lot of Commanders fans on Twitter being like, oh, Jaden Daniels owns Caleb Williams, yada, 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 Jaden Daniels, yada. I'm going to make it clear. Both quarterbacks did not play particularly well in this game. Jaden Daniels' stat line got boosted because of that Hail Mary. 326 and 1 touchdown, but I mean, over 50 yards in that touchdown came off of the Hail Mary at the end of the game. And I mean, Caleb Williams, 10 of 24, 131 yards. It's just bad. It's just not a good game. DeAndre Swift he's playing very well right now. 129 yards in that touchdown with less than 30 seconds left to give them the lead that should have won the Bears the game, but the
Tyreek
Commanders
Stevenson was trash talking the fans.
That's so funny. That is so funny. And I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, Tyreek Stevenson should be cut, yada, yada, yada. Tyreek Stevenson has been playing very well for Chicago this year, so you're not doing that, okay? He's a good corner, but taunting the fans and then Noah Brown is the man you're supposed to be marking the entire way, and you just don't even get close to him. And then
Well, he was the one that tipped the ball.
yeah,
Too.
then you tip the ball to him to lose the game. It's one of the funniest things I've. That's instant karma.
Yeah.
That is one of the funniest things I have ever seen on an NFL field ever. Um, it's up there with the Will Levis after the pick six against the Bears in week 1. That had me cracking up when I saw it a couple hours later. But I mean, the Commanders might just be a team of destiny, dude. Like there's always a team every year. It was the Texans last year. It was the Bengals a couple, like when they made the Super Bowl, obviously, or they just come out of nowhere and kind of are the darlings of the NFL. The Commanders are going to be that this year. Despite Jaden Daniels not playing particularly great, he's obviously having a phenomenal year. I think he's 5th in MVP odds as a rookie, which is insane. And like him and CJ Stroud are just resetting the standard for rookie quarterbacks. But I mean, the Commanders are 6-2. They'll probably be 7-2. I don't know. I'm not going to say probably. Divisional games are always tough to win. But they've got the Giants this week, and then they've got Steelers, Eagles, and sure, Cowboys, whatever. Even though the Cowboys are not particularly great, they've got after the Giants game, they've got the Steelers and the Eagles. So those are going to be.
Predict them to be around 6 wins.
I predicted them to have 4 wins.
4.
So yeah, there's that. I think the most that any of us predicted them to have was 6 wins, and they've already reached that. But I mean, they're probably going to be a playoff team, but the NFC is so good that if they lose a couple of these games, I don't even know what could happen with them. But I mean, they should be a playoff team. Their schedule is not difficult down the stretch at all. They've got Titans, Saints, Cowboys twice, the Giants. So we'll see what happens. But it was ending was crazy. Dan Quinn, obviously, the entire Commander staff going crazy. Noah Brown, Buckeye, and now Commander legend. It was just insane. I haven't seen anything like that in quite a long time.
Yeah. I mean, even for him, I mean, he scrambled around for a while and then threw the ball probably 60 yards to the back of the end zone.
Yeah, it was a heave.
It's crazy. I saw there's this like local news channel was interviewing one of the fans like right before the play, and then like the play happened and like everyone was just going nuts. It was pretty sweet. But yeah, like that's one of the best plays that I've seen in a while. I mean, improbable play. You think it's after that DeAndre Swift touchdown, you think it's over for the Commanders. You think they let one slip away, and then they come up with a miracle heave to win the game. Heartbreaking for Bears fans, obviously. I saw a lot of Bears reactions. They're pretty funny. But yeah, I think the Commanders team is a legit playoff team. Yes, they have the Eagles and the Cowboys in their division, but this division always has a different champion, and I think the Commanders, if they continue to play how they have been, I think they're going to be a playoff team for sure. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that they're this year's version of the Texans or the 2021 Bengals. I think they're the darling of the NFL. And there's a great story. I mean, Jay Daniels coming in, Dan Quinn coming in, kind of revamping this team.
Dan Quinn. I'm gonna apologize to Dan Quinn because I said in the preseason predictions that I didn't love the Dan Quinn hire, even though like obviously he went to a Super Bowl, but I mean still I thought he wasn't still with that I thought he was inconsistent in Atlanta and everywhere else he's been. I'll put my hands up in the air. I've been completely wrong about the Commanders. I was wrong about Jaden Daniels. I was wrong about Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. That's probably the biggest L I have taken in the preseason predictions by far. Was I was way off on the Commanders, which we all were to a certain extent, but I was way off. So I will put my hands up in the air and say I was wrong for sure.
Yeah, I predicted Jaden to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I didn't expect the Commanders to be this good. I agree. I wasn't super thrilled with the Dan Quinn hiring just based off of his past. But he's come in and changed the culture of a team that looked dead in the water for the last decade, really. And new management, new team. And There's
New
hope
owner
in
too. Shout out Dan
there's
Snyder for
hope
being a
in
terrible person, but
there's hope in Washington for probably the first time since RG3, and we all know how that went. All right, last couple games of the week. Sunday night, we had the Cowboys versus the 49ers, and the 49ers won 30-24. I think reestablishing themselves as one of the better teams in the NFC. Yes, the Cowboys aren't great, but I still think the 49ers are not a team you can write off just yet.
no, absolutely not. The fact of the matter is they've made it to their bye week with a 500 record. And we know how good the 49ers can be when they're fully healthy, which they're not going to be fully healthy for the rest of this year because Brandon Ayuk is obviously out for the rest of the year. But all their guys that are a bit banged up are going to get a week to get healthy, and CMC's probably going to return after their bye week. So, I mean, after that, even with their schedule, if they can win, 6 of their last 9, is there 6 wins here? Bucks probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'm looking at 6 wins. They've got games at the Packers, at the Bills, and then at home against the Lions. So those are going to be tough games. Those will probably determine their seeding, but they should get as close to fully healthy as they're going to be for the rest of this year after their bye week. And I mean, Kyle Shanahan's one of the best head coaches in the league. They've got one of the best rosters in the league. I fully expect this 49ers team to go on a bit of a run after their bye week and finish the year with 11 or 12 wins at minimum. On the Cowboys side of things, the Cowboys, they're just not good. They're just not a good team this year. There's no real other way to put it. They're just, I mean, their wins have come against the Browns, who are not good, the Giants, who are not good, and then at the Steelers, which they're 6-2. But I mean, are they? I don't even know. No, we'll talk about Pittsburgh in a minute. I don't even know. But I mean, 44-19 against the Saints, 47-9 against the Cowboys, or not the Cowboys, against the Lions. Like, their defense is a mess. I don't think they're a good team this year at all. And the NFC is a lot better than we thought they were going to be. I don't think this Cowboys team makes the playoffs, to be truthfully honest with you. Looking at, I mean, Falcons, Eagles, Texans, Commanders, Bengals, Eagles, Commanders, Bucks. They've got the Giants and the Panthers remaining, which those are the 2 games that I would say they should win. But I don't think they're a good team. I think they're a bit of a mess, and Jerry Jones kind of sitting on his hands and doing nothing in free agency is coming back to bite them really hard.
Yeah, I agree. We're kind of seeing Dak kind of regress back to his 2022 season where he threw 15 interceptions. I mean, last year he was an MVP conversation, and this year he's been not great. I mean,
This year he's not in MVP conversations.
No, he's thrown 8 interceptions already this year. He threw 9 last year. He threw 15 in 2022. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits that or gets close to that number again. And yeah, Jerry Jones, I mean, we say this every week, him just sitting on his thumbs and not doing anything in free agency obviously is hurting him. They have no run game whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
CeeDee Lamb is really their only offense. And they didn't have a lot of their good defensive players. But yeah, they're a mess. And the 49ers, they just continue to push out good running backs. I mean, obviously you have CMC, who's, when healthy, the best running back in the NFL. And then on comes Jordan Mason, who for like 3 or 4 weeks was really good. And then now you got Isaac Orendo, who's came in 85 yards, 1 touchdown. Another gritty player who's came in when Jordan Mason's kind of been banged up the last couple of games. He's been good. And I think this is one of the best seasons we've seen from George Kittle from a receiving standpoint. I mean, he had a touchdown this game, 128 yards. He's up to 503 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year, 40 receptions. I mean, the last time that he matched his touchdown total from last season, 2022, he had 11 touchdowns. But He's been playing phenomenal and is key for this team because, like you said, without Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel's kind of not 100% either. He has a rib and oblique injury, and he obviously had pneumonia last week. Um, that receiving core is a little bit banged up. Ricky Pearsall, the rookie. Um, so they need somebody to step up, and George Kittle's done that beautifully. Um, but yeah, I don't think you can write this 49ers team off just yet. We thought after all these injuries on offense, it might, and them being under 500 might be, they might have to scrap and claw to get back into the playoffs, but you can never doubt the talent of the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. So I think that they're going to get themselves back into playoff mix.
They should. Barring injuries, they should for sure.
Injury. All right, final game of the week. The Steelers beat the Giants on Monday Night Football 26-18. Another good game from Russell Wilson. 20 for 28 with 278, one touchdown. Yeah. We talked about it a little bit last week. The Steelers might be a legitimate team.
Unfortunately, I think the Steelers are a good team this year. They're either the worst good team ever or the best. They're not a bad team. They're not a bad team. They're 6-2. But it's like I have to keep saying that because like they make every game so boring. Even this one against the Giants was just boring until the fourth quarter. But they're 6-2, man. Which I mean, looking at their schedule, they needed to get off to this kind of start if they wanted a chance at
schedules were rough.
Yeah, Commanders. I mean, I've talked about it numerous times, but Commanders, Ravens, They got Commanders, Eagles, Chiefs, and then each of their divisional opponents twice. And we know how the AFC North is with their divisional games. So, but I mean, if they just got to win 4 out of 9, and they're gonna get 10 wins and are probably gonna make a wild card at minimum. They're currently leading the AFC North halfway through the year. I don't expect that to continue. I think Baltimore will end up usurping them, but the fact of the matter is that they just keep finding ways to win games. I don't even think finding ways is a good word. Like they deserve
games
to beat the Falcons. We don't talk about the Broncos game, but they deserve to beat the Chargers and the Raiders and the Jets and the Giants. So, like they're playing good football, and Russell Wilson he's definitely better than he was in Denver.
Absolutely, it's night and day.
Yeah, it's a night and day difference. It's kind of hard to understand considering how he was in Denver, but I think that Pittsburgh I think they've just bought in to Russell Wilson and the energy that he brings to this team. Najee Harris had over 100 yards. And it seems like someone on Pittsburgh steps up. Calvin Austin had 2 touchdowns. He had that punt return touchdown and then that dot from Russell Wilson. He also threw another dot to George Pickens later in the game to get him in scoring range.
2 touchdowns, get called back.
Yeah, he did. That did happen. Unfortunately for Weaver, he won anyways. So, who cares? But, yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh they're probably going to be a playoff team this year, and I think for the first time since like 2020, they've earned it. I think they're going to earn it. I think they're a playoff caliber team. I think they're a good team. I mean, are they going to make the Super Bowl? No, but I mean, I think they are going to be a thorn in the side of a lot of the real contenders in the AFC for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this was as close to vintage Russell Wilson game as I think we've seen. He was throwing the ball in right on the money most of the time, and he's definitely helped this offense out a lot. Obviously, play the Jets and the Giants, who aren't great teams, but 6-2 nonetheless. Najee Harris has been playing well the last couple of weeks. George Pickens, since Russ has been in, has kind of exploded. And then that defense is still one of the best defenses in the league with Cam Hayward, Patrick Queen, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. Joey Porter's been playing pretty well. So they're always going to have great defense, great special team, but just of the offense could kind of rally around. And honestly, Arthur Smith has been pretty good. I mean, they've put up 32, 37, 26, which for
Is
the
that
Steel,
that is
it's
an
pretty good
improvement
for
from Steelers
yeah,
teams in the years past.
yeah. Like you said, I can't I can't be like, oh, how are they 6-2? Like, there's no way they should be 6-2. Like they're a legitimate football team. They're putting up points. They're playing great defense, and I do think they're going to be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to win the division because the Baltimore Ravens are a thing. Um, but I think it's time to take this Steelers team more seriously than most people, I think, are.
Yeah, I think they'll probably end up as like the 5 seed in the AFC with they'll probably be similar to how the Browns were last year, where they're just a
Yeah,
good sound team on all levels. They'll end up with 11 wins or something and be a wild card team. I think if you ask me right now,
yeah,
the Giants are terrible. Daniel Jones sucks.
yeah. We know this already.
Tyrone Tracy is broken
He
out
got
though. He's been
he got
very
hurt
good
though. He got
for
hurt though.
the Giants. 145 yards and a touchdown in this game. He had a couple. The Eagles game wasn't great, but no one on the Giants played well in that game. I mean, he's got over 300 yards, couple touchdowns on the year so far. He's been good in the absence of Devin Singletary for a bit. He should get more reps after this game. Malik Neighbors had 7 for 71. Darius Slayton had over 100 yards, but I mean, Daniel Jones sucks. So the Giants are not going to be a good team until they get rid of him. And even then, it'll probably take more than that.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some Week 9 predictions. This past week, Nick won the week. He went 12-4. Joel was second with 10-6. Me and Zach were both 8-8, standing at 500. And now Nick has overtaken the lead with a record of 74-49. With Joel and Zach not too far behind at 73-50, and I'm pulling up the rear at 71-52.
It's what we like to
So,
hear.
yeah, big week for you. So, first matchup of Week 9, we got Texans at Jets on Thursday Night Football.
Texans, I would not be shocked if the Jets won this game because
They're actually favored to win this game.
that is insane. But
The spread's Jets -2.
yeah, that's kind of crazy. But I would not be shocked if the Jets win this game. The Texans' offensive line has not been playing great, and they just lost Stephon Diggs, and they're not going to have Nico Collins. Despite I'm going to pick the Jets in this game, despite my better judgment. I'm going to pick the Jets in this game. I think they're desperate for something, and they're at home in prime time. Brees Hall is going to get the ball fed to him a lot more than he did. I mean, they have to, right? They're too talented to not get a win like this against a team like Houston. I don't think it's going to change that much for either team, but I think the Texans have just come off back-to-back emotional games, hard-fought wins, and the Jets need something. So I think they'll pick it up home primetime Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm going to side with the Jets as well. The Texans are pretty beat up offensively, and like you said, their offensive line hasn't been very good. And on the other side of the ball, the Jets have Will McDonald, who's one of the leading sack leaders, and still have Quentin Williams in there who's a good run defender. I mean, yeah, like at home, they have to win this game, or it's just completely done. Like if it isn't already, and they should have won that game last week, but it got away from them. And so I think, and at home, backs against the wall, everyone's going to be wondering if they're just a complete mess or not. And I think,
I don't think there's any wondering. I think they are a complete mess, but they need something.
yeah, they need something. All right, moving into the Sunday slate. First, we got Cowboys at Falcons.
I will be taking the Falcons at home in this game. I'm looking at the Cowboys' schedule. I would not be shocked at all if they lost their next 4 games and we're sitting at 3-8 because they've got Falcons, Eagles, Texans, Commanders over the next 4 weeks. Like, it's not looking great. It's not looking great for them. But I'm going to take Atlanta in this game. I think that they're hitting their stride, and the Cowboys defense is not good. So
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with the Falcons as well. They've been playing really well recently. Kirk's playing well. That defense is pretty good, and there's a lot of question marks in Dallas right now. Um, Plus, at home, I'm going to give the edge to Atlanta. Next, we got a divisional matchup. The Dolphins are going
the
into
Dolphins are
Buffalo.
going to lose against Buffalo.
Yes, they will. That one, I mean, it's a divisional game, so it might be a little bit difficult, but
that should be a clean sweep from all four
They
of us.
struggle in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Chargers at Browns, the battle of two run-first defensive teams. This is going to be it's such an exciting game.
It's like the Chargers they beat the Saints, but it's like who cares?
The Chargers are currently favored.
Yeah, they're 4-3. The Browns are 2-6. I trust Jim Harbaugh and their running game to do something. And I don't trust Jameis Winston to throw for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns again. So I'll take the Chargers to win a narrow, lower scoring game.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers as well. Like you said, I don't trust Jameis Winston to put up 300 plus yards again. Justin Herbert, barring with below average wide receiver play, has actually had a pretty solid season. They run the ball effectively. Lamar McConkey's been good recently, and that defense is still pretty good. So I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers. But it's going to be a grinded out type of game. Then we got Patriots-Titans. This is the Tank Bowl.
Is Drake May going to play?
I doubt it because he has a concussion.
Hey, Siri.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, I'm trying to flip a coin, but Siri doesn't want to answer. All right, hold on. Let me flip a coin. All right, heads, Patriots, tails, Titans. It was tails, so I guess the Titans are going to win this game. Who cares?
I think, is Mason Rudolph still playing?
I don't really care. To be truthfully, I don't really care. Whether it's Mason Rudolph or Will Levis, it's like I don't care. I don't care. I really don't. But they'll come out on top in this game, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans on this one. Barring, I don't believe that Drake May will play. So you're going to have Jacoby Brissett in there, and the offense is not going to move the ball.
Yeah, plus Tennessee actually has like a solid defense. So
yeah. At home, Mason Rudolph is whatever. The offense is whatever. Tony Pollard's decent. Calvin Ridley, you still have him. He's decent as well. But yeah, this is not going to be a game that I'm really going to be tuned in on. But just whatever. So I'm going to go with the Titans. All right, now we got Commanders at Giants.
I could see the Giants winning this game because the Commanders just came off of an incredibly emotional win. And it's a division game, and the NFC East also hates each other, much like the AFC North. Did I say AFC East? Or NFC East? I meant to say NFC East. But they also hate each other. All 4 teams hate each other, much like the AFC North. I will pick the Commanders in this game, though, because there's very clearly a gap between these two teams. So I'm going to take the Commanders in this one, even though I could see the Giants winning this game in upset fashion.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Commanders as well. The Giants have a very good defensive front, which could give the Commanders' offensive line some problems, but I trust Jaden. I trust Terry, still Brian Robinson. That defense is not good, but neither is the Giants' offense. So I'm going to get the edge to the Eagles or the Commanders. But it is, divisional game, always tough.
Malik Neighbors could have a big game.
He probably will. He should have a big game. All right, now we got Saints-Panthers.
Is Derek Carr going to play?
Let me look.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up if Andy Dalton is gonna play. Because if either of those things are true or not, that'll sway my result.
Derek Carr is expected back in starting lineup.
Okay, I'm gonna pick the Saints then.
Yeah, I'm going Saints as well. The Panthers are objectively horrible.
If neither Andy Dalton or Derek Carr was playing, I was going to flip another coin. But and Derek Carr, yeah, if he's playing, I'm going to pick the Saints.
Yep. Broncos at Ravens.
Ravens.
Yeah, should be the Ravens. They shouldn't have too much trouble there. Then we got the Bengals at Raiders. Raiders at Bengals in Cincinnati.
The Bengals better win this game. Otherwise, their season is officially cooked.
Yeah, the Bengals should win this game. The Raiders are horrible.
Yeah, I fully expect the Bengals to win this game, but they're 0-4 at home, so who knows?
They are 0-4 at home, which is completely unacceptable, but that's besides.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Bengals, though.
I'm also picking the Bengals. All right, Jags at Eagles.
If this was in Jacksonville, I think I'd pick the Jaguars just because there's always a random result, but it's in Philadelphia, so I'm going to pick Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm going Philadelphia as well. The Jags they've been playing a little bit better, but they're still not good. And the Eagles, coming off of a big performance against the Bengals, I think are going to continue to put it on inferior Jags team. And then we got Bears at Cardinals.
This is actually this is an intriguing game.
Yeah, pretty even game, I'd say.
Yeah, because I think both of these teams kind of need this win to set themselves up to maybe make a playoff push in the second half of the year. I like the Bears offense versus the Cardinals defense more than I like the Cardinals offense versus the Bears defense. So I'm going to pick the Bears in this game.
Yeah, I'm going the Bears for the exact reasons. That was my
I'm sorry, Evan.
No, it's okay. This is going to be the game of the week. We got Lions at Packers.
I forgot this game was even
in Lambeau.
I forgot this game was even this week. I should have known this because everyone was like, "Why is this not the Sunday nighter?" You said Jordan Love was day to day.
Yeah, I can double check, but
because if Jordan Love doesn't play, the Lions are going to win this game for sure. But
it says Jordan Love avoids serious groin injury. Tests show no significant damage. It is considered a strain. A source said his availability for Sunday will be about how he feels and progresses throughout the week.
Okay.
So he's probably a game time decision.
Yeah, I think the Packers, I think he is going to end up playing because this is such a massive game.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Plus, he's played a little injured already.
Yeah. Man, this is a hard game. Listen. I just think there's something about Detroit this year, even with losing Aiden Hutchinson. They beat the Titans 52-14. We didn't talk about that game. 52 points, and it was 49 after 3 quarters. So it really could have been like over 60 if they really wanted to. 52 points is absurd in the NFL. I think there's something about Detroit, man. I do. Not to sound like Dan Campbell, but I'm going to sound like Dan Campbell. There's something about that team that it screams Super Bowl caliber. Not that the Packers are not when they're fully healthy, but I mean, there's something special about Detroit this year. And I'm going to pick Detroit, but I would not be shocked at all if the Packers make a statement and come out on top in this one because they're also a very, very good team.
Yeah, I agree. Lions, like you said, they're on a 5-game winning streak. They've put up 40-plus points in 3 of their last 4 games. I think this is going to be kind of how that Vikings game was, where it's going to really come down to the wire. But I'm going to go with the Lions. With Jordan Love being questionable, we'll see if he plays. But in Lambeau is always tough. But like you said, there's just something different about this Lions team. I think they're definite Super Bowl contenders, and I think they're just an elite team right now. And they're playing offensively, at least at a completely other level than everybody else is.
Their offense didn't even play that good against Tennessee, though. It was entirely special teams that just torched them.
They still put up 50 points. All right, then we got the Sunday night game. We got Colts-Vikings.
This game will be an embarrassment for the Indianapolis Colts. The Vikings are coming off 2 straight losses off of 10 days rest at home in primetime with something to prove. And the Colts had just benched their quarterback. So I fully expect the Vikings to win by about 21 points.
Yep, I agree. Joe Flacco at quarterback now fixes a little bit of stuff maybe, but it's still...
It's not even going to, though, because he played against the Jaguars and lost. And then he played against the Titans, who actually have a decent defense and barely move the football. And now he's playing an even better defense in a more hostile environment.
Yeah, they're not going to win that game.
If the Colts win this game, I will do something, but I don't know what it will be. There's no chance the Colts win this game at all. Absolutely none.
Make sure you go follow Nick's Twitter to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it'll be something.
All right, then we got Monday night Bucks at Chiefs.
Chiefs are going to win again, and they're going to be 8-0, and it's probably going to be really ugly. It's going to be like a 23-14 type of game where Kareem Hunt runs for 110 yards on 4 yards of carry and has a touchdown, and Patrick Mahomes has a pick and an interception. But they're gonna win because they have an elite defense and the Bucs are injured to crap.
My thoughts exactly. So I'm going with the Chiefs.
Did we pick all the games the same?
I think almost.
We're cooked. It's so over.
It's all right.
We're gonna both go 6-10.
I can't let you. I gotta make up some ground, so I guess I should have picked some different ones, but.
There's a half a season left. There's time.
Yeah, we got a lot of time.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will be back next week. Peace.